Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another live chat. Wherever you are joining from, let me know. I see. Hi, Angel. New Swing Sextet, one of my favorite bands of all time. And get the pleasure of calling them friends too. So it's nice to see. Saita, Holland in the house. Still in Holland. Again, for those of you joining, I'll explain what this is if this is your first time, but wherever you are joining from, let me know in the chat. Your city, your country. Josh from India. Cool. Whereabouts in India? I'm from India. I'm not sure if you know that. I was born there in Delhi. Yes, Angel. Family, of course. Family. Plamena from Munich, Germany in the house. Yes, definitely family. Still in Holland. Cool. Wade from Queens. Virjesh. Yes, I know Virjesh. I think he's teaching with Saiba, if I'm not mistaken. Didem from Istanbul. Merhaba. Damn, I'm losing my Turkish. Hoş geldin. There we go. Taino Salcero from Orlando. Cool. Every time I say cool, I don't know if you've seen this show. It's called Community. And it's about these adults who have to go back to community college to complete their credits. And there's one guy in there, his name is Ahmed, and he always says cool to everything. So that's my recollection of whatever it is. That's where it's coming from. All right, so for those of you joining for the first time, I mean, if you are here on one of my platforms, Instagram here, Facebook, and YouTube over here. If you're wondering why I'm looking to either side, that is why. If you don't know me, I'm not sure how you found me, but I'm Magna Gopal. I've been in the dance industry for 23 years, teaching, traveling around the world, and teaching all sorts of dance stuff, dance techniques, but also mindset and how to approach learning. And the purpose of these live chats is to bring something a little bit different to the conversation, to the discussion that we have within our community. There are lots of elements of dance that are beyond the technical aspects of it, of just learning moves. And I think if we want to get better at anything, whether that is dance or any other hobby or improve our relationships, we have to be able to check our thoughts, check our mindset, see what we're approaching life with and see how it's benefiting us or impacting us negatively, and then obviously make corrective changes to improve the outcome. So that is what the purpose of these live chats are, or that's what the purpose of this live chat is. This is number 28. So this is a monthly live chat. I take questions that I receive from you, but also just experiences that I have in life that I have a moment where I want to express something. And instead of just doing that with one friend in a conversation, I see if I can flesh it out and create a topic for us to actually discuss and for us to improve ourselves. And that's kind of the topics for these live chats. The other place I get a lot of the ideas for these live chats are through the feedback forms. If you've heard me say it, you'll hear me say it again. The feedback forms for these live chats is a really important place for me to understand what you took out of it, but also for you to share a little bit more. Not everyone feels comfortable going live and publicly sharing their comments. So those feedback forms allow you to speak to me personally. And if you have further questions or something that you want me to discuss, the feedback forms is one other way for you to do that. There is a section in there for you to share your questions, and I will do my best to address them. Again, we are on number 28. So we've been doing this for over 2 years now of monthly live chats. And a lot of you have gotten the things that are important to you, questions that are important to you, issues that are important to you addressed in these live chats. So keep it coming. don't hesitate. That is what I'm here for. This for me is a pleasure, to take this time. Yes, it's a lot of prep, a lot of prep work. And sometimes, you just feel like, wow, what am I doing this for? And then, of course, I always come down to my purpose, which is, what am I here for? What is the purpose of all the knowledge that I've acquired and the experiences that I've acquired and the lessons that I've learned? Well, to share them. And if I have a platform as I do, why not use that platform for that purpose, to develop the community in a positive way and hopefully give you some inspiration, motivation, and some tools to tackle the challenges that you face. So that is the purpose of this live chat. And I'm going to just preface everything. It is bloody hot over here. I would love to turn on the aircon and the fan, but I have a feeling it'll interfere with the mics and the audio. So I'm going to suffer in this heat. It's like, I think, 28 degrees outside, and even feels worse inside because there's zero ventilation, zero breeze happening here. But for this live chat, that is what I'm willing to sacrifice. So again, if you're joining, let me know where you're from. Got a couple other comments here. Josh, you're learning with them. Awesome. Please tell them I said hi. I would love to connect with them again, hopefully when I'm back in India. I don't know how many of you actually saw my post on Facebook or on Instagram. It was a question that I had asked everybody, kind of, what do you tend to express more, negativity or positivity in your life? So that's going to be my first question as I continue to talk about some of the other things I want to discuss. But for those of you who are present, what do you tend to express more? Not saying that you're not expressing it or anything like that, but what do you tend to express more? Negativity or positivity? Let me know in the comments. And in the meantime, I will also share that 2 announcements. One, for those of you following me, you probably have already seen some of these notifications, but the Empowered with Magna live chat, wow, so many things happening. The Empowered with Magna podcast is live. So if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely go check that out. They are shorter clips. These live chats do tend to run long, 60 minutes, 90 minutes sometimes. The replays are always available for you on YouTube if you want to go check it out, if you can't stick around for the entire thing. But if you want something that's a little bit more bite-sized, you can't see what I'm pointing to, but I'm pointing to something over there. So if you want to go check it out, go check out YouTube. The Empowered with Magna podcast is available. So wherever you listen to podcasts, go check that out. You can see smaller chunks of messaging, so you might be able to find something that relates to dance, something that relates to rejection, something that relates to how to learn, how to practice. And you can find that you can go directly to magnagopal.com/podcast, or you can also just check out Empowered with Magna, the letter M, and then Powered, and look that up on Spotify. The other thing that I want to share with you all is the Master Your Multiples program is going live again, right? So I'm super excited about this. This is going to be the 3rd iteration of it. We have been going through multiple spins, basically starting from the beginning, figuring out what your axis is, what your frame of reference is, what you've learned, how to correct those things. And that is going to be happening. Well, this is the pre-launch announcement. All right. So it hasn't gone official yet. It is a 14-week program. So first week, we'll be setting up our calls. You have each week tutorials that are released that are developing on the material that you've learned the week before. And every 2 weeks, you get a coaching call with me. So via Zoom, we'll connect and we'll go over whatever it is that you are working on. And so you get direct feedback through this entire program. This entire 14 weeks, you get direct feedback, you have direct access to me, and you get these tutorials that you can watch and review as you need to. So that program will officially launch. This is the pre-launch, officially launch next week. There are limited spaces because, again, there is time involved. It's not just a go at your own pace, but it is combined with the coaching element of it. So there are limited spaces. I don't have that many slots that I can set up all of these calls. So limited spaces. The registration will be ending on July 21st. And then we'll be kicking off the program on July 23rd. So if you want to check that out, spins.magnagopal.com. You can go directly to my website, magnagopal.com, and check out the on-demand learning, and you will see information there for how to sign up and for more info. Okay, so if you have any other questions on that, by all means, shoot me a text, DM me, send me an email, or you can contact me through the program page as well. Okay. All right. So moving along, let me get rid of these things here that are on YouTube and Facebook and attend to a couple more comments before we move. So not so much the numbers. All right. Salsa on clave is from Dominican Republic. Asked, what do you think about salsa teachers that teach from the clave and not so much the numbers? Since we haven't jumped into our topic yet, I will address this question first. I think teachers have a wide variety of tools at their disposal, right? You're not limited to counting everything out 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. You could be a teacher who makes a lot of sounds as a way to reference what it is that you want students to do and students to connect with. I remember I used to take this African dance class in New York a few summer before COVID, and that teacher, I don't remember him counting anything. Actually, he was like just making sounds, but the sounds connected. That is exactly what we wanted to connect with, what he wanted us to connect with, and that's how we taught it, and it actually worked. So not a single count was brought into that class setting ever of all the classes that I took with him. Teachers that teach on the clave, if that is what they want to emphasize, then by all means, if that's working for you and working mainly for your students, then use the approach that works. For the teachers, sometimes we learn a certain way. Maybe we learn from a teacher who is teaching specifically on the clave, and as a result, we think that that's how we need to teach. If you are an instructor, your goal is not to just dispel information. Your goal is to be understood and to elevate your students. So if you are using an approach that worked for you and you're thinking, okay, fantastic, this worked really well for me. Look at how much I've learned and how much I've grown. I'm going to use the same approach for students when I start teaching. And you notice that they are not improving at the same rate that you did, then you want to stop and take a look at what you're doing and how you're doing it and adjust it accordingly. So I am not for or against a certain method of teaching or a certain approach to teaching. As long as it's benefiting your students and you're seeing growth in your students, then that is ultimately all that matters. And as far as getting students closer to the culture, I like your follow-up there. He asked this question because in his experience, learning with the clave gets the students closer to the culture. Again, we got to take it back to your students and what is their desire, right? Are they trying to get closer to the culture and to understand all of the roots and all of that? Or are they just trying to get on the dance floor? Because if they're just trying to get on the dance floor, they might not need or want all of that extra detail. I will speak for myself, right? I've been in this industry for 23 years, over 23 years now. And I don't have that much knowledge about the Afro-Cuban elements of this dance, the dances of Yemaya and Chango and all of these things. I can kind of know the names, but I cannot identify the rhythmical patterns. I don't have that understanding of this dance. And frankly, it doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't add to the dance that I want to have and the dance that I want to teach. And so I have not spent time to learn that. So some people might say, oh, well, you're a dancer, you should know everything. And I'm like, well, no, I am working on developing my understanding and my depth of knowledge for the things that I want to share and the things that bring me joy and the things that I know I can practice. Right. So for me, where am I going to practice all of those other details that are a deeper cultural understanding of the dance? I don't see an environment for myself. I'm only going to socials, like even performances. Those performances, I was playing with a lot of different things. And so it really does depend on what your student wants. Like I strongly encourage instructors to bring everything that you have in your mind and your experiences and the lessons you've learned to the classroom to instruct your students. But be aware that not every student has the same goals and desires as you. And likewise, they are not going to approach it with the same intensity that you might have. Right. And back to speaking to my own experience, I have a desire to break down fundamentals in a way that allows me to do as much as I want with the music and with my partner and with my body. That's my goal. That has been my goal. And that is what I see importance in. Right now, do other people care to learn all of that? They might appreciate what I do. They might say, wow, I love the way Magna dances, or, she's so much fun. I wish I could dance like that. But most of the time when we say, I wish I could do something, it's, it's not really a wish, because most of the time we have those tools at our disposal. If we really wished to do something, there are steps that we can take to do that thing. But we don't want to do it, right? Like there's a desire, there's an interest, there's an inspiration, but there's not a drive, or there's no push to actually take the actions required to be able to have those skills. And so I understand that, that not everyone who appreciates what I do wants to learn to do that or wants to put in the work, because ultimately a lot of those things are effort and time. You have to all of a sudden break down everything that you've known and that you've learned and say, how could I reframe this? How would I approach this differently? Have I been doing things the right way all of this time, or do I need to change? And that's an ego, a hit to your ego too. So going back to what you had asked, ultimately, it's really got to depend on your students and what is it that they want, what is their goal in dance, what are they trying to achieve for themselves, and then instruct according to that. Right? You have a lot of information, you have a lot of knowledge, but not everything is going to be applicable to everybody, and so you have to be able to pick and choose what you're offering based on what you can deliver, based on what their desire is, what they're looking to learn and improve upon. Hope that hope that helped. Okay, so I will come back to. There's one more question here. It's in the class. Burjesh in the house. I think you just brought Josh in the house, so thank you. Do teaching instruments in a class help grow students as a dancer? I'm going to revert back to what I had said before. It ultimately depends on the goal of the dancer. I think exposing students is great because, maybe they don't know, right? Maybe they have no idea of, I've only learned it with a count 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. And all of a sudden, now someone's actually playing the instrumentation and I can see it. And now I'm exposed to this a new piece of information. And then I get to decide whether that's something I want to pursue or not. So I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with that. But again, check your students, right? If you start bringing instruments into class and you see that the students are not receptive to it, right? Or they don't understand it, or they're still struggling with their basic and the timing, then maybe now is not the time to introduce them. Maybe you bring them in later, or you have a specialty workshop that is specifically discussed on the instrument, specifically focused on the instrumentation itself. Like I have classes where I'm teaching fundamentals and technique. Then I have other workshops that are musicality focused. People that come to that class have a desire to learn that. And so I know that I'm working with the right audience and I'm delivering the right information, and it's going to be received well because that is their purpose. It's not everybody's purpose. Right. All right. You're most welcome. Oh, Sabrina, Austria in the house. Josh got you in the house. Cool. Again, if you are just joining, please let me know where you're joining from. I would love to give you a shout out. And one of my favorite things about these live chats is the international aspect of it and where everyone is located while you are here, present with me while I'm here in New Jersey. Hi, Debbie, Florida in the house. All right, so let's go back to the topic for today. All right, so I had asked this question. Some of you might have joined a little bit later. So I will ask it again, and feel free to take your time because there is a lag between when I ask it and when you share it and when I see whatever it is that you shared. So I will ask the question again and I'll continue on with the live chat. The question I had asked on Facebook and on YouTube was, what do you tend to express more? Joy or discontent? Positivity or negativity? Right? Wade just said, I tend to express more positive, but the negative has the strongest presence. The quantity of positive and quality of the negative. Very interesting. And I will talk about that a little bit more. So, everyone who had replied to that post, and every time I ask a question, I get some simplified answers. Sure, we could complain and say, hey, you couldn't expand a little bit more on this, but the way I look at it is, what did I do in terms of expressing myself to get this response? And so I will always check myself and say, it starts with me and what could I have done better? Pretty much everybody commented with joy, right? Like, that's what I do. I share love and I share joy and I share appreciation. And perhaps this is true, but there is this question of how strong is that voice of joy compared to the discontent? How do we express our joy? We are expressing joy a lot. How are we expressing it? And if we had to compare it to our expression of something negative that we're feeling, what is it? How does it balance out? Like, you could have 10 expressions of joy that are, weighed at 1 pound, and you have one expression of negativity that's weighed at 50 pounds. Like, yes, you had 10 expressions of joy, but that one expression of negativity has balanced the scales in favor of negativity, right? So just curious, think about it a little bit, and then throw your comments into the chat. I'm going to explain how I got into this. And Debbie, it's great that you're here because George and New Swing Sextet was the first inspiration for this. I saw New Swing Sextet live recently, and of course I'm going out of focus again. I saw New Swing Sextet, a phenomenal band, live recently. If you are on Facebook, you could tag them. I forgot to tag them in this. And it was a small social in Edison, New Jersey. And there were tons of people, really good attendance for the band. And the band is solid. Like, they are always, always solid. And some of the people who were involved in organizing and bringing this band here were kind of set up standing behind the band. And when the songs finished, and these are songs that we're dancing to, that we're vibing to, whether we're dancing or not, we're just watching the band and saying, "Woo, wow, what a fire song," right? And when that song ends, honestly, I saw so many people just standing there, right? Like, maybe they were standing there with their arms crossed and kind of like, yeah, this is cool. They like this music. And when the song finished, they were still standing there like this, arms crossed. So my first thought was, how difficult is it to put, this just really super out of focus. How do I get back? Okay, there we go. How hard is it to put your hands together and clap? Right? I mean, have you ever found yourself watching live music, having a great dance, saying thank you to your partner, hopefully, because I've seen that too, where people finish a dance and are like, cool, bye, next, right? Without taking a moment to say thank you. So let's say you say thank you to your partner, and now you're looking for the next person you want to dance with. Have you taken the time to appreciate the band? Have you taken the time to appreciate the music that you just had that allowed you to have the dance that you had? So that was one. All right. And I've had this chat with other band members because I remember standing there, especially at Taj Lounge. There's this location in New York. They have Monday nights, Latin Mondays at Taj with live music pretty much every week, every Monday. And I was there watching another band, Avenida Bay, and I am good friends with David, who was the band leader of that band. And they finished this song, amazing song, and I'm just clapping. I'm so excited for being able to experience that. And I kind of look around and there's people just standing around like, good, thank you, next, like keep entertaining me. I don't need to appreciate you. You're here for that, to entertain me. And so that's one inspiration for today's topic, because I was like, we have so many opportunities to express contentment, express our happiness, express our appreciation that take like no effort. I mean, putting your hands together to clap takes no effort, and yet we somehow can't do it. I'll talk about some of the obstacles in our way, but that takes me to dance performances. My goodness, I have traveled around the world, performed, been in the audience for performances, and how many times I have seen people, especially in the front row, like, why are you in the front row if you cannot put your hands together? But I've seen that, and I'm sure many of you here who have performed, especially if you've been on stage, pro performance or student performance, I don't care what it is. If you've been on stage, I am sure when you finished a routine, there are moments, if you really scan the audience, there are people there that cannot put their hands together for some reason, right? And it does impact you as a performer. I organized an open house for my Toastmasters club just last week, actually, well, 1 week ago, June 28th. And I remember after we had our Toastmasters meeting experience that everyone got a chance to experience, to see, wow, this is what Toastmasters is all about. At the end of that, I was about to open the Q&A session. And before that, I'm like, all right, let's give a big round of applause to everybody who just participated in this Toastmasters experience. And I'm seeing people sitting there with their arms folded. And, if you know me, I'm quite polite and diplomatic, but I'll call you out in a nice way. And I just kind of looked at the group of guys, and I was like, you can't put your hands together? Do you think that this was easy? Would you like to come up and try it? Because it's not, right? So there's that appreciation just for live music, entertainment, and experience that you're getting that doesn't require much more than this to show your joy and your positive emotion. So, question to all of you who are here. I'm going to now go through some of these comments here, but have you ever found yourself hesitating to show appreciation in certain situations? And if you have, like, let's say you're watching performances, why? Why didn't you? Why didn't you put your hands together to clap for a band or a dance show or anything, right? Why didn't you take that 5 seconds to put your hand together and clap? I'm curious. And then while I see the comments here, I'll just go through some of these here first. Okay. Challenge with Instagram comments is that they scroll very quickly and they're very hard to find. If you are on Instagram and you don't have a difficult time going on YouTube, I really highly recommend, if you are engaging, to go on YouTube. I can really see your comments more clearly and I can find them. Okay, so I've got salsa lista now. I would say discontent is much stronger perceived. It takes more positive to balance out one negative. I will stop and say that it doesn't take more positive to balance out one negative. It takes equal positive to balance that negative out. right? Again, we can have 10 iterations of positive things, but if each of those things only weigh 1 pound, and when we express ourselves negatively, that weighs 50 pounds, then yes, of course, we feel like our positivity needs to be, on the just completely not exaggerated, but really have to pump up the positivity to balance out the negativity. But it's only because of the intensity of how we express something positive versus how we express something negative. In general, we over focus on finding negatives and complaining a lot. I agree. Osbanis in the house from the UK. Viju, I'm kicking myself for not asking you for a dance at that social. There will be other socials. Don't worry. We'll have another opportunity. Josh says, I tend to show more negativity towards myself when I don't get steps, when the camera goes on while someone's recording me dance, or when I perform. There is discontent and it takes away from the dance. Yep, it does. Negativity really does take you out of the present moment to see what else you can appreciate and enjoy. And there's a lot of joy when I'm not being noticed and when it's just about the music, partner, and me. I enjoy the music with my partner a lot more. That's one thing too. When we have the pressure of presenting, when we have the pressure of presenting ourselves like we're having fun when we could be having fun, but the pressure adds to a draw away from that present moment of having fun, that becomes difficult. I can understand that. I feel like people are more ignorant and spoiled than ever. So often people oversee what it takes to get up on stage or create an event experience for others. That is definitely one very common reason for not appreciating applauding, for example, right? Not appreciating live music or a performance. And back to that open house event that I did. This was my first time organizing an event in my life, which involved multiple like venue negotiations and setting up chairs, getting supplies, making sure all of the people that are supposed to be presenting are prepared. Like, so many things went into organizing that event. I have a greater appreciation for event organizers in general, like in our dance community, how many organizers, what they go through and what they put out to get that event to go the way it is, even when it's not successful, right? Like, we have moments where we go to an event, we're like, wow, look at this, look at that, look at this, complain, without seeing that the effort and the intention there was very strong to create something powerful and amazing, even if they did not succeed at getting to that, right? And that's something that deserves some appreciation. And I think the people that were present at my open house, for example, with my club, I think they were just like, well, I don't know what it takes to organize an event. I've never organized an event, and seeing how smooth and seamless this feels to me must have been easy. And it's hard to then say, let me applaud your effort when I don't think you made an effort, even though there's so much effort. Like most things that we get to experience on the receiving end of life, right? Any experience, event, a service, a presentation, a performance, any of those things that we experience, when we experience them seamlessly, when we are sitting there and saying, wow, that was amazing, we forget to think about how many things have to happen for it to go so seamlessly for us to experience that, right? It is so hot here. Marisol said, generation has lost kindness, appreciation, and humbleness. Yep, I see that. Sabrina says, I always clap out of respect because at least for their courage and efforts. Absolutely. I would not fake it and be over enthusiastic. Nope, that's not required, but definitely the appreciation for the effort, right? Ju said, I'm guilty of that. I can't explain why, but I do appreciate the artistic effort. I personally will be more attentive to expressing appreciation. Thank you for your conversation on these matters. Speaking of clapping, right? Again, I'm not saying if you don't clap that you intentionally don't care, don't appreciate, don't like. But there are a lot of things that we do unintentionally without realizing the ripple effects of that. And again, we will go into this a little bit more in detail. Herman from Los Angeles. Hello, hello, welcome. Johnny, I love the way you dance. Thank you very much. Okay, comments on YouTube. Joshua, and there's a lot of joy when I'm not noticed. Thank you, Josh, for joining over here. I can now actually see your comment. Wade said, I battled many times to fake a positive expression when I didn't enjoy a performance and show. I direct my approach to show appreciation for them to show up. If I liked it or not isn't the point. So Wade and Sabrina over here, you guys are saying the same thing, right? It's not about faking interest. It is about appreciating effort. That's where the positive expression comes out. You might not like it. Who cares, right? You don't have to like everything. But if somebody put on a performance, like, especially if you have the experience that you have here as dancers who have performed, right? You understand how many hours you spend learning choreography, practicing, rehearsing, paying for studio time, paying for your costumes, your shoes, rehearsal time, all of that stuff, then getting on stage, doing your tech rehearsals, meeting, trying to just get coordinated and schedule time with everybody else. That there's so many things that go behind that 3 minutes that you spend on stage. The least someone could do is applaud the effort and the courage to be up there. Right? You don't have to fake positivity. Now, if you liked it, by all means, there should be no reason for you to be like, right? No reason for that at all. And that's where I don't understand, like the dance with the bands, right? I mean, everyone there was just dancing and having a great time and not acknowledging the band that made that dance possible. It's like, I can't understand it. So that's another, was one of the inspirations. The other place I'm going to go, and this is, again, I want you all to, if you're watching this replay, if you're watching live, just to kind of follow me and check yourself. That's really ultimately where growth comes in, right? It's not so much about just developing and learning something new to grow. It is also about taking time to reflect on where you're at, where you've been, how you've progressed, and how you can fix, correct, change, improve to continue progressing and going forward. I'm going to go to an online social media comment. There was someone who I had written a post, and this was a while back, but again, this entire topic got me thinking about so many things, and it reminded me of this one comment that I got. It was a little bit more of a political feeling about something that I was concerned about or whatever that I had posted. And a gentleman had commented. I wished I could find that comment, but I do remember it. He commented and very vehemently disagreed with what I had written, but included in that comment, and he said, I really disagree with this. I don't think that this is the case, whatever it was. And then he added, I really like all of the dance stuff that you post and the other things that you post. I really like all of that stuff. I don't like this. And sure, I could have engaged with him in a combative way and fought with him on that. But instead, what I did was asked him, said, "It's really interesting that you write this comment. You say you like a lot of these things that I'm doing, and yet this is the first time I've seen your name. I've never seen your profile pop up on anything that I've posted. So you're telling me about how many things that I do, majority of the things that I do that you like, and this particular point of view you disagree with. And yet the only time you've ever commented or shared your thoughts or your feedback was now?" Right? Like, and what I loved about that interaction was that he reflected and said, "You know what? You're right. I am finding myself um, kind of fueled by the negative emotions and the conflict that I'm feeling. And that's inspiring me to say something, to comment. But there's so many good things that are happening in my life that I enjoy and I appreciate, but I am not taking the time to share that appreciation." So back to all of us. What are you sharing? What are you commenting on? Right? Those things that make you happy, those things that bring a smile to your face, those things that uplift you and inspire you. Are you taking the time to say something about that? Or is it just the negative things that you don't like, that you're like, "Oh, this, I got to share with this person and tell them, oh my God, I can't believe that they did this. And I can't believe that they did that." Right? Again, it's not about eliminating the negative things or the things that upset you. It's not about eliminating that emotion. We are human beings, and the beauty of us is the multifaceted way that we feel and live and experience and express ourselves in life, right? That's the beauty of being human. But what gets more weight? And again, even if it is a 1 to 10 scale, if those 10 things weigh only 1 pound and that one thing weighs 50 pounds, you might want to say to yourself, I'm mostly a positive person. But in reality, the weight of your negativity is much heavier than the positive. So that's something to think about, right? In online interactions. Another place, another area that this came up, and again, that inspired today's topic, was a conversation that I had with a really close friend of mine. He's a father of two now, and with a newborn. And he was talking about how we talked about just, like how we express positivity and reinforcement and stuff. And he acknowledged, and he's a really good guy. He's generally full of joy and laughter and jokes, and he's a positive person to be around. He's very inspiring. And he talked about his kids. And he said, now that you mention it, I'm trying to think back about how I parent. And my kids, like when they do something bad, they get a lot of feedback, right? It's not necessarily that you're yelling and berating them or anything like that, but they get a lot of detailed feedback as to why you shouldn't do something, why that action was wrong, why it needs to be avoided. But for the things that they do well, it's pat on the back, right? It's a good job, because you expect that. That's what you want. And so you acknowledge it with the bare minimum that is required for acknowledgement, and then you move on. But as soon as something bad happens, all of a sudden now it's like, let's sit down and let's talk about this. So even there in relationships, I know we started off with performances, right? How much do we share? How much do we express our joy and our positive emotions? Moving on to online interactions, social media interactions. What are we interacting with and how are we interacting with them? And then same thing goes for relationships. And now I'm talking about my friend and his parenting, that he acknowledged that, I could be doing more with the positive too. The positive behavior that I like, I could be saying more in a fleshed out way instead of just breaking down the negative so clearly. And that goes to just experiences that I've had too, right? There are some relationships that I've had in the past. I know where I've contributed to them in a way that did not help them grow. And one of those were when things were going good, everything was great. It was expected to go good. That's what I wanted. That's what we both wanted. And there was no time spent expressing that gratitude and saying, hey, you know what? I appreciate you because you do this and you do that. And I want you to know that. Instead, we just enjoy, we course through the relationship. And as soon as there's an issue, all of a sudden now it's like, hey, listen, you know what? I really did not appreciate this. And I want to tell you all the reasons why. And, let me break down everything to you, right? And now that one negative thing becomes expanded to something really big. And it's not to say that it wasn't important and that feedback and constructive feedback is not necessary, but the way it's approached, those negative moments, is again heavier than the way the positive moments are approached. Even though the positive in quantity exists, easily defeat the amount of negativity. But the quality of the positive expression compared to the negative does not compare. Man, it is really bloody hot over here. Holy cow. So I really apologize that I keep on like wiping my face, but I feel like I'm just eventually all these flashing lights. That might be the heat too. I feel like these flashing lights are it's like I can't see anything. She is just a reflection right now. Thinking about your own lives. I mean, how do you express yourself? How do you express your positivity, right? Like, again, we all say, I express joy. I'm a joyful person. I'm a happy person. And what I tend to express is the positive stuff. But how and when? And and what is the quality? What is the intensity of what you're expressing? Right? All right, just answering some questions here, or rather comments. Herman just said, commenting on the performances, it's so true. It takes a lot to go out and perform. I try to always reach out to at least one performer and thank them for their performance, whether it was pro or amateur. That's a lovely gesture. Put myself in their shoes and know that I appreciate acknowledgement for the effort. Absolutely. Don't we all? Again, if you're just joining, tell me where you're joining from. I see some names that I think I recognize, but I don't want to lie and say I know exactly where you're from. So I'd rather you just say it and then I'll give you a shout out. Moving on. And there was one other thing, actually. So this also, again, this topic brought me back to kind of the social media interactions, how we engage, right? How we're expressing ourselves. And it took me back to an experience I had, wow, maybe a decade ago. And it was with an event that was very poorly organized. And a lot of people didn't get paid. A lot of artists didn't get paid. And majority of people, the artists that speak about the event, spoke about it in a very attacking manner. And they did not like that experience and they made it known to everybody. And now I'm sure you can think of people that you know, or maybe you have too, where you had a bad experience and you're like, you know what? I need to tell the world about this. And I need to be as clear and detailed as possible. And they had this event experience and blasted the organizer, blasted everybody who was part of that team, were really pissed off personally. And like some of them had threatening comments in their messages. There was another occurrence with an MC in the dance community who also got blasted publicly for some joke that they made that was inappropriate to this person who was in the audience at the time. And that person decided to make a public statement about it and break them down. Now, there are some things in our community that do require some public approach to, like where you really do need to take a step and make something public to break down what happened and prevent its recurrence. But the things that happened here, one with the event and one with the MC, I'll speak to the MC first. You have to question whether the first thing that you are entertaining is the negative emotion that you feel, or if you are actually trying to be constructive and create change. Because when it comes to expressing negativity, and especially when it comes to a negative experience that you are being critical about somebody else, about an organization, or whatever the case is, you have to understand that the same way you would feel if someone came attacking you is most likely what you're about to inspire out of them, right? That is the behavior that you're most likely to get as a result of you attacking them. So if you, when you're feeling attacked, get on your hind legs and the hair on your back rises and you're ready to fight and you get defensive and you're protective and you're perhaps aggressive and confrontational, well, what do you think the other person's going to do? Right? And that brings me back to purpose. When you're expressing negativity, why are you expressing negativity? I'm going to move that to the event experience that I had. I felt the same thing. In fact, that was one of a few events that year where I did not get paid, and I was bloody pissed. right? Of course, I want to blast these organizers. Of course, I want them to like never get work and not, ever organize an event again. Like that's the feeling. That was the rage I felt inside. But what did I do instead? I know that those kind of attacks will most likely divide the people that are engaging with me. Some will feel like it's justified what I'm saying, and others will feel like I went too far. And so now I have people supporting me and people attacking me for attacking that person for doing the thing that they should not have done in the first place. So instead of doing that, I thought, how can I create change? If I don't like this, how can I improve it? Complaining is not the answer. Complaining doesn't really do anything. It's problem oriented, not solution oriented. And when we are just purely expressing what we feel negatively about, we're just focusing on the problem and we're not taking a moment to think about a solution, right? So, how are we contributing to the improvement? How are we contributing to a positive change if we can't come up with a solution? If all we have to say is, that was bad, I didn't like this. Okay, well, what did you like? What did you like? What could have been done to make it better? And in terms of what you're expressing, is this the best way to express? Could you have done something better to effect positive change? Or did you just pour fuel on the fire by doing what you did, by expressing how you expressed this thing that you're not happy with, that most likely you probably don't even have all the details about, right? So it is, there's so many layers. It's not just, I know we started out with like, what do you express, positive joy or discontent? There's so many other layers, and if you start to reflect on how you're interacting, how you're engaging, and what you're allowing into your life, you'll start to see the weight of the negativity versus the weight of the positivity, and start focusing instead of just quantity but quality as well. A couple of comments here. Hi, Avis from Vegas. Nice to see you. Oops, Instagram, always a challenge to navigate. Wade said, I 100% agree. I've been in the performance shoes, so there should be no excuses from me of not showing appreciation for their hard work. Absolutely. And that's the wildest thing. I've been to events and seen performers not clap. Like, what are you thinking? What if other people acted like you when you were on stage? What if everybody acted like you when you're on stage and nobody clapped for you? How would you feel? You can't do this for 5 seconds? Plamena said, joy it is, thank God. Even if I'm upset, I always remember Mark Twain's quote, if you want to cheer yourself up, cheer someone else up. That's a beautiful way to see things. And then Wade asked, I'm curious to know what contributes to an increase of sensitivity to negative emotions. That actually I'm going to, so let me continue with the topics here. I'm going to address that question in a minute. So basically, when it comes to positivity and negativity, there are so many elements and so many examples of how we're showing up and how we are amplifying, which voice we're amplifying, and like how we're actually amplifying that. So are we truly bringing positivity into the world around us and into our own interactions, or does negativity actually balance the scales in favor of itself? The reason for us to understand this is because the impact of our amplifications, right, whatever it is that we're amplifying, has ripple effects. Like it truly ripples into everything else we do. And it's important to understand the benefits, right? There's always this like, oh yeah, positivity mindset is overrated. I'm not, again, like I said, I'm not talking about eliminating the negative things that you feel. Feel them. They are adding richness to your experience on this planet and in this life, and the richness of your experience with other people. Those moments that you feel something negative are moments where you stop and you think, and you should. If life was just all rosy colored, we wouldn't have those moments where we have to question things or get upset. And I'm all for experience a full range of emotions, but see what comes out on top. And I would always balance the scales in favor of positivity. And the reason, excuse me, 1 second. The reason I do that is because I can see the benefits. So there are a few benefits, and I'm sure there are more. If you can think of a benefit of pushing positivity over negativity, again, not eliminating negativity, but expressing and amplifying your positive voice, throw them in the comments. But one of the best benefits, one of the biggest benefits is yourself, your bloody sanity, right? You have, if you can view things positively, it contributes to an improvement in your well-being, in your overall demeanor, in your stress. And stress, we know, contributes to aggravating many diseases and all sorts of other complications that we might not be aware of, but they are manifesting themselves inside of our bodies because we're stressed. And so having a positive outlook or seeing the positive outcome of something allows you to kind of de-stress, right? Or decrease the stress in your life. The other benefit of it is you can reinforce the behaviors you like versus only discouraging what you don't like. So back to the MC, yes, I get it that this person did not appreciate what this person said, the MC had said. But by attacking them, by putting them on blast, what they ultimately did was put that person on the defensive. Now, if you want change, that is not the way to effect change. You kind of got to go at them, speak to them in a way that respects them as human beings, and don't go in with the assumption that they meant to do something wrong, that they intentionally wanted to offend other people, but try to go in with an open mind and say, hey, listen, I'm not sure what your intention was, and maybe you could clarify it for me. But what you had said really offended me and my two friends or my group of people. Maybe it didn't offend everybody, but it did offend us. And this is why. And I'm wondering, how do you see that? Kind of open the door to communication instead of shutting them down. It also strengthens your relationships, right? The more positive attitude, appreciation, gratitude, kindness you bring to your interactions, it improves your relationships and it improves your connections. Because when you are sitting there attacking people, they don't want to be engaged with you. Even if what you're bringing to them is something constructive, they might, if they're not defensive, they might improve upon themselves, but that improvement is not going to be shared with you. You will be a byproduct recipient of that improvement, but you will not get to experience that directly. And the other element of it, when it comes to that kind of relationship building, is we don't see the importance, or we fail to understand how little tiny gestures can make a difference for somebody else. If we actually take the time to say thank you, if we share our appreciation, if it is as Herman, I think I forgot the name already. Shit. Okay, I lost his comment. As somebody over here had said, sometimes he takes, after a night of performances, he makes sure he reaches out to one person. You never know what that connection, what that appreciation will bring forward. You never know, right? And then in terms of reinforcing the things that you like, back to online engagement, particularly, right? Like everybody's on social media now, one channel or another, somewhere or another. What are you engaging with, right? What are you sharing? Are you sharing things that you dislike? so that you can both comment and complain about it? Are you uh, sharing all the things that inspire you? Right. And then, in terms of those people that are inspiring you, that are creating content that you are you interacting with that? Because I'll tell you personally, like I said, I do my live chats because I feel like these are topics I want to discuss. And I've gotten questions and comments on it, and I can see the impact of it in the community, and I want to give voice to it. Again, not to go bashing anybody, but to create change. My goal here is not to complain about it, but to find ways to approach it so we can all be better. And I can obviously benefit from that. But how many comments or feedback, right? Feedback form that I've talked about a million times, do I get that say, thank you, not just thanks, that was great, but explaining something. I really like the way you structured this, or I really like the way you bring these comments into your live stream, or I like this, or I like something specific. Because all those things that you like, that you're enjoying as a spectator passively, where you're not interacting, you're not engaging, those people that are creating those things don't know. Right. So maybe you don't like something that they did. Like I mentioned about the the comment that I received in the couple of while or whatever years back or whatever, the political one, where this person commented in the moment that said, "Hey, listen, I really didn't like this. I disagree, blah blah blah. But I like everything else you're doing." But he never commented, never engaged with any of the other things that I was doing. How would I know what you like? So that productivity and creativity that you can create by showing appreciation for somebody else is a huge benefit, right? You like something, you want more of it, show appreciation. Same thing with, we talked about this in the feedback live chat, right? If I like the way someone has structured a class, I will share that with them. If I like content and I'm like, wow, this is really inspiring, I'll leave a comment and say, wow, really enjoyed that. Thank you. Made me think differently, right? Something simple, because that person now feels like, excuse me, like what they said, what message they put out there, that they felt like it was important, but they don't know if it's important, if it's having the impact that it's having. By you engaging with it, now all of a sudden they do see that and they do appreciate it. And they do understand that it is having an impact. And so they are going to continue creating those kinds of things. Right. And then, of course, ultimately, the greatest benefit is that, what's that comment? No man is an island, right? No person is an island. And your expression of whatever you're feeling has an impact on other people. Maybe you're not even discussing it with the person that you have, I don't know, some issue with, right? So you're not talking to that person directly saying, I don't like this or I don't like that. Maybe you're complaining about it with somebody else. Well, what environment are you creating? Right? You might be creating an environment full of negativity. And now what you're doing by expressing just complaints, etc., is now inviting that other person to do the same thing. And now where are you going? Now you have drawn somebody else into your negative expression. And who knows where that will ripple out to, right? So there are benefits internally. There are benefits in terms of the people that you interact with, the way you can strengthen those relationships and connections, reinforce the behavior that you like, discourage the things that you don't like, enhance creativity because you are saying, I like this. So this person feels like, yes, I'm doing something right. Let me work harder. Let me work to be better. Let me create more of this. And ultimately, by bringing that positive outlook, you are changing the environment, right? You are changing the people around you. And that, I'm going to say, is one of the kind of obstacles that we have sometimes to ourselves. when it comes to expressing positive things, when it comes to putting our hands together to clap for a performance, when it comes to saying thank you, when it comes to writing a review, when it comes to leaving a comment for something that we like. Again, we gloss over the things that are positively affecting our lives because, one, when we feel good, we don't sit with that feeling. And when we feel appreciation, especially when we are a part of a crowd or an audience, so whether that is individually on my phone looking at something online or watching a performance in a crowd of people, right? We almost assume someone else has already done it. Why do I need to? Or everybody else is clapping. Like, what difference does it make if I'm clapping? And the truth is, if everybody thought that way, nobody would do anything to show appreciation. And when everyone thinks the opposite, all of a sudden you get this amplification, right? One clap, yes, you'll hear it. A band could hear it if there's just one person clapping. Two people, all of a sudden you have an orchestra of applause and an orchestra of appreciation. And so you always have a contribution that you can make. And your voice, as little as you think it is, means something. Everyone's voice is one voice, but it's a combination, it's the aggregate, it's putting them together that makes that appreciation loud and truly acknowledged and heard and appreciated from the person being appreciated, right? So when you look at your own actions, don't sit there and think somebody's already done it. Look at it like it's the first time. You're the only one, and no one else is doing it. Because when you feel not that pressure, but that privilege of being the first person to say thank you or to show appreciation, trust me, you approach it differently. Again, mindset shifting, right? Do you feel pressured to say thank you and show appreciation, or do you feel the privilege? Like, just those two words alone will make a difference in how you approach what you say, how you express it, and to whom you express it, and how often you express it. All right. So I just want to touch on one thing. Where is it? Wade. Is it Wade's comment? All right, this was another comment I'd written. Okay, so I would like to just quickly, just gonna go through these comments really quickly. But lunch break is over. I told you these do go a little bit longer, but you can always watch the replay on YouTube. Thank you for insightful discussions. You have no idea how directly I've been associated to some of your topics, or how grateful I am for the forward progress that you've helped with. Like, just that comment alone, like it makes such a difference for me to know that this is helping in a way beyond you just sitting there passively observing, absorbing, applying to your own life, reflecting on it and applying to your own life. Doesn't take much to say something like that. So thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so want to talk about the sensitivity to negative emotions. I think, or actually, let me ask this first. Does anybody, why do you think that negative emotions have more intensity than positive emotions? Curious what your thoughts are. And while you ponder that, and hopefully I might beat you to it, but, or rather, yeah, I hope you beat me to it. But I think that the reason our negativity, the negative things that we feel, the complaints that we have, the anger, the resentment, all of those negative emotions, not, I don't want to call those negative because they're natural, but whenever we feel something negative, right? The reason those things are amplified, the reason they have more intensity, I would say, is because negative emotions have more power because there's a lack of resolution. When you feel something positive, you feel like there's it's been resolved, right? I engaged, I saw something, I observed something, I liked it. Yay, I'm happy, let's move on. Versus something that you don't like, something you have a problem with, something that's affecting you and upsetting you. When you see that, you're like, I don't like this. I can't change it. I don't know what to do to change it. So I'm just feeling stuck. There's no resolution. And so it sits with you longer. And as it sits, it festers. You know, that there's this parable of the two wolves. I am sure I'm going to butcher it right now, but there's something about two wolves and no, you know what? We'll look it up real quick. Parable of two wolves. Um, one is evil. Nope, hold on. It was a old man telling his son something, basically saying that my son, the battle is between two wolves inside of us all. One is evil. It is anger, envy, jealousy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, etc. And the other is, it did not load fully. I guess it's a book actually. The other is good. It is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, all of these things. The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, which wolf wins? The grandfather replied, the one you feed. You know, and that I think is really important for us to keep in mind, right? Is what are we feeding? When we have something that is positive in our life, do we marinate that? Do we enjoy it? Do we speak about it? Do we amplify it? Are we feeding that good side, that positive emotion? Versus when we feel something negative, when we're upset, how often, and I will speak from experience. I know that when in my past, I'm working on this myself, right? Is in my past, when I was upset, I could be upset about something for a while. Like I could talk about it all day. Every single person I talk to, I'll bring that up. That whole week will go and I still haven't found the resolution. I'm still complaining about it and upset about it. And I'm feeding that wolf. Whereas when I have a really great moment, I mean, even my open house last week was a success, right? Like I'd still work on appreciating, taking time to appreciate the good and talk about all the good things that happened. And it's not about stroking the ego. It is about acknowledging your own efforts and appreciating yourself. So for me, most of my life, and we do this to ourselves to improve. I get it, right? We feel something great, and we're like, okay, cool, felt great. Let's move on because I need to grow. I need to work. I need to be better. And so everything that I'm struggling with is what's going to help me get better. Yes, to a degree, but how are you approaching it? How are you communicating it? How are you speaking to yourself about those things too? And that's what I feel like our power of our negative emotions is because there's a lack of resolution. We can't find that resolution with something external. And so we have to really work on it internally first, right? Problem oriented versus being solution oriented. And I will tell you my approaches for this. My first approach is context versus isolation. The tendency for me to really sit into whatever negative thing I'm feeling is a result of isolating it. Is looking at it and saying, this is just the worst thing ever. This is my worst day. I can't believe this person did this and how rude of them and blah, blah, blah. Like everything is super isolated to that moment. Context means putting that entire thing into context. I'll give you an example of like personal relationships. Like I've had romantic relationships is where I've experienced this the most. Good things happened and they were great. I still remember good times with someone I was dating. But whenever we had an issue, man, we really talked about that issue. And it started to feel like what was in the relationship was just issues. When in reality, there were so many good things, but we never spent the time to acknowledge them and appreciate them. We just spent all of our time when it came to discussions, right, conversations, deeper conversations, we talked just about the negative. And that was something I had started to take forward into other relationships, especially romantic relationships, because it's nice to enjoy and appreciate and have fun and love and all of those things. And we can do that and we can feel that somebody appreciates that love and joy and and feels happy with us, right? But we don't talk about it. And that's been a goal of mine, going forward, when since I've learned that lesson myself, like when I was in a relationship, I would take time every week, have a recap and talk about what were the good things? What do I appreciate about you? I don't care if I'm repeating myself, because you know what? If I'm repeating myself, that's something I really, really like. And the more I tell you how much I like it, hopefully you will never let that go. You'll keep that around. Because in your head, maybe you're wondering, wow, I do 10 different things. I'm not sure what makes her happy. Well, I'm telling you, if you don't have the energy and the effort and the bandwidth to work through those 10 different things, at least you know the three that I really love, that really impact me positively, because I've shared that with you, not just by enjoying it and by smiling and being happy and giving you a hug, but by talking about it too. Just like when we have an issue, when there's a difficult conversation or a difficult experience that we need to discuss, I will communicate that too. I will talk about it in detail. But again, all the positive things. Thank you. Love that we did this. Really had a good time. Versus, you know what, this particular thing that you did really upset me. And I'm going to tell you all the reasons why. Again, many occurrences of the positive appreciative expression, right? Many, 10. One really difficult conversation spoken in so much depth and detail that the weight of this outweighs all of the good stuff. So if you just start to talk about the good stuff with the same intensity and desire and detail that you do about the bad things, you would be surprised at how much that relationship can improve. And that requires, and actually that contributes to the context. It's much easier to put things into context when you are sharing the same things, because again, as Matthew says, negative speech has more intensity even internally, right? Negative self-talk, and I did a live chat on that whole thing as well. I should have, I mean, I'll try and put that into the YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, I will add the live chats that I'm talking about here, or that I'm referencing, into the description so you can find them easily. But that context, it's easier to find context when everything is getting the same weight. It's easier to say, you know what, I do feel really strongly and I'm upset about this one thing, but I've expressed so many good things with the same intensity, and I can see that this is not the representation of this relationship. This is an isolated moment, and I will not give it more weight than it deserves. Right? um, Another approach of mine is, if I like something, I say I like it. Right. So I reinforce positive behavior. Some of my students, they know this. I recently had a student from London who I was working with, and she talked about how she enjoyed the lessons. And most of the time when we're working, especially as teachers with our students, we're like, yeah, here's good job, good practice. And instead, what I told her, I sent her a long text saying, I just want to applaud your efforts as a student. I think the way you approach learning and the way you take notes and the way you ask questions, I told her everything I think she's doing a good job with as a student. And that allowed her, and that allows her to continue that effort, because she will be better. And other instructors will get to benefit from that same curious, dedicated approach of hers. I have a friend of mine who switched schools and started taking classes somewhere else. And he was telling me, and I knew the instructor that he was taking classes from, he was telling me, oh, I really like the class. I don't feel like I'm singled out. I feel really supported. The instructor actually came and worked with me through the shine and like until I got it. And you know what I did? That wasn't just like, great, I'm so glad you found a good instructor. I know that instructor. I sent that instructor a text and said, hey, one of my friends is taking class with you, and I just want to thank you for being so attentive and kind and compassionate as an instructor. He really enjoyed the experience, and I'm sure all your other students are. He doesn't need to hear that from me. I'm sure he knows in his mind, at least this is the assumption we go through, right? Oh, he must know he's good. Look how many students he has. That's not the point. Like, one of the best ways to approach sharing appreciation and positivity is as if you are the only one. You are the only person who's ever going to say anything to this person. What would you say? Would you just in your head internalize what you're feeling that's positive and walk away? Or would you take that moment? If you knew you were the only person who had the privilege, again, not the pressure, but the privilege of sharing appreciation with someone, what would you do? And that's how I look at it. I always look at it as I don't care how many other people have said something. I don't care if the whole world, like I am person number 1 billion and whatever. I don't care if no one said anything. I feel something. I feel appreciation, and I am going to share that with the person, with the recipient in one way or another. Random acts of kindness, that's another way too, right? These are specific. I appreciate something, but random acts of kindness, like there's nothing stopping you from appreciating a smile or giving a smile. You get something, you get an experience that you enjoy. Yes, you're with your friends at a restaurant or something, hanging out, and you're enjoying your time, but the person comes and fills your cup. Instead of just a thank you, yeah, most of the time we do that because we are in somewhere else. But that little thank you, depending on how you say it, whether you make eye contact, say it with a smile, a nice tone, makes a difference to that person that's serving you. And you know what? Back to reinforcing behavior, that person is more likely, your server is more likely to come around and be like, oh, can I refill you? Right now, you have an interaction. There's so many people that I have made connections with because I was pleasant as a customer. I've made friendships with like bartenders and bar owners and managers and people who work in freaking convenience stores because I was kind and I took that time to appreciate them, whatever it was. But I wasn't just thank you. I would try, if I could, if I noticed something I liked, I would share that detail with that person. Doesn't take much. And then finally, or not finally, two more ways that I approach this. The other way is to challenge the narrative. All right. Many of us think that we are, again, back to kind of diminishing the impact of our voice, right? We might think that, well, I'm just one in a room of 100. So who am I to say anything? And I'm not, again, not speaking about like going out there and blasting people, but when you're in an environment that is engaging in a conversation that is purely negative, right? When it's one on one with a friend, you can try to reframe that. I have many friends who I'll talk to, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I just can't believe this person was this, this, this," and try and say, "Well, look at it like this. This person made you think about the relationship or your friendship in a different way, and now." You've never been confronted by this issue, and now you're getting a chance to see where you stand, what your values actually are. That's a great thing. Some of us don't have that experience to be forced to check our values. Same thing with past experiences. Like I told you about that event, right? That event showed me that I could actually create a program to help educate artists in negotiating better terms for themselves so that they don't get screwed over like myself. And reflecting on my own experiences with friends or in romantic relationships, instead of just being like, that guy was a jerk, that guy was this, I can say it wasn't the right match at the right time. And yes, I didn't feel like I was appreciated, but I learned what I need to feel appreciated. And that contributes to every relationship going forward. And then finally, this is again, feed the wolf, right? Feed the good wolf. One of my approaches, and I've talked about this in a past live chat. I really got to go and figure out which live chat. Again, they're like 60, 90 minutes long, right? Hold on one second. Hey, Google, stop. Hey, Google, stop. My apologies. She starts listening and having a conversation with me. Anyways, um, feeding the right wolf, right? This is important. What I do in my calendar, I have a morning simple calendar item that repeats daily. It's the first thing I do when I wake up. And I have a nightcap kind of journal, again, calendar item, nothing long. I'm not forced to write, 1,000, 2,000 words or anything like that. My morning gratitude is just saying three things that I'm grateful for when I wake up, and something affirmative, like a nice statement. And usually I tie that into whatever I'm doing that day. So to pump myself up. And then my nightcap tells me to go through that day and say, what did I do well? What could I have done better? What do I appreciate about this day? One item of gratitude. And that's it. Right? It's not complicated, but I have a reminder for both of those items in my calendar. They repeat every day, and I feed the good wolf so that I'm constantly with this mentality and this approach to life that has gratitude. And Christian just joined. We need both wolves. Our lives are about balancing. You're absolutely right. I don't know if you just joined, but we've been on since 12. So I recommend listening to the entire live chat before jumping in. I'm not saying we don't need both wolves. We absolutely do need both wolves. But which one are you feeding more? That's the one that's going to grow. And one other comment here. Okay. Matthew said, as for negative speech having more intensity, it's easier to focus on what is wrong because there's an immense need for wanting things to be just right. Absolutely. That back to that solution orientation, or rather resolution. Anything less than that is never good enough. We spend a ridiculous amount of time picking things apart for something wrong rather than looking at focusing on progress and good things, which is a solution. And all right, so one more second, and then I will continue going forward. Okay. So to summarize today's topic, every day presents us with a choice for feeding a wolf, right? As Christian said, we do need both wolves. All of those emotions that we experience, joy, love, happiness, greed, envy, hatred, anger, all of those things are completely fine. Balance is key, because those moments that we feel some strong negative emotion is often the one that requires resolution, and that resolution requires growth. And one second, folks, sorry, I cannot. How do I do this? Okay, cannot do that. That negative feeling requires a resolution, right? Whatever that intense thing is, we haven't found that resolution. And that's usually what pushes us to continue thinking about it. So these are some ways that you can find that resolution faster. Right? One is internally, is by focusing on yourself and saying, all right, what am I thinking? What am I usually thinking? What are my patterns of thought, expression, engagement? The other element is reflecting, right? Reflecting back. And are you isolating this moment and magnifying it beyond what it deserves to have? Or can you put it into context, and can you find the positive in terms of how you're expressing? Right? Start by practicing gratitude and expressing appreciation. How many moments can you find something to express appreciation for? Can you do that every day? Do you do that every day? Right? If it's not even appreciating the quality of the experience necessarily, like watching a performance, don't have to love it, but can you appreciate the effort that went behind it? Right? Can you show like some gratitude for having the privilege to be there to witness whatever it is that you witnessed? Doesn't take much, but it does go a long way. And then, of course, balancing things, right? Like, it's not to say, again, that we do not feel negative emotions, or that there are not going to be issues that require that feel combative, that feel like conflict, that require a deeper discussion and a deeper dive. But how are we approaching that? How do we express ourselves in those moments? Are we just focusing on the negative? Is everything a complaint? Or can we actually find the positive and say, hey, I really like this. I appreciate this, and sandwich that negative between that and say, however, this one thing that happened, I do want to point it out because I don't want it to happen again because this is how I felt as a result of this particular thing happening. Um, but I just want to say I appreciate all of your other efforts to, have healthy communication and express yourself and be respectful and all of those things. So there's a sandwiching element of it. And then finally, just know that you, as an individual, are, yes, no man is an island, right? No person is an island, but your voice is not as small as you think. And when you feel empowered to express your voice, you will be surprised by how many people you attract to you. And that goes for positive and negative things. That goes for love and that goes for hate, right? Pure rage, pure anger, all of that stuff. If you strongly stand behind your voice, people, the people that you want to attract, again, whichever wolf you want to feed, will be attracted to you. And now you're building that community. So don't take it lightly. What you're focusing on, what you're expressing, and what you're surrounding yourself by, because it's very possible that the reason, yeah, just like our expressions have ripple effects, it's quite possible that we are a ripple effect, that our expression is a ripple effect of what we're surrounding ourselves by. So if we are surrounded by an environment of other people who are always complaining, who are always negative, who always find something that, I hate this, I don't like this, and don't often express what they like and enjoy with the same intensity, you do get influenced by your environment. And as a result, you might find yourself in the same patterns of expression. So we have to check ourselves, right? Ultimately, it's about that awareness, building that awareness, reflecting upon ourselves, and finding ways to introduce the things that we want to grow and develop, finding ways to introduce them in small increments, but quality increments, because ultimately, between positive outlook, positive expression and appreciation versus negative expression and hate and discontent and complaining, you know, again, it's not about how often you're doing one. It's not just about, rather, it's not just about how often you're doing one versus how often you're doing the other. It is also about how you do each one. So if you express yourself positively, great. If most of the things that you do are positively oriented, the one thing that you do when you're expressing something negative that you feel, you spend all week on, and every positive expression is 5 seconds. Yay, I really like that. But the thing that upsets you, you talk and complain about it for the whole week. Well, 50 positive expressions will not outweigh that one negative. So just check yourself, reflect, and I am certain that together we can create a better world. That is ultimately what it's all about, is knowing the power of your voice, speaking with respect and speaking with purpose and speaking with responsibility, understanding that there's a ripple effect to whatever you do, whatever you say, and how you show up. So try and do your best and give what you would like to receive, and wherever you can, be grateful and appreciative. And of course, one way to show appreciation is through the feedback form. If you are still here during this live, or if you're watching the replay, magnagopal.com/feedback, or just go to my website, magnagopal.com, and go to the contact section. And there's a feedback form for the live chat where you can share your thoughts. And with that, I am going to wrap up today's live chat. Thank you for joining. For everybody who is here, whether you can stay for a little bit, whether you're watching the replay, or whether you've stuck around for the entire time. These are deep dives, but topics like this are important, and they can't be brushed over with a quick 5-second clip or something like that. And it's better to break it down with solutions so that we can find ways to implement it into our life, where we have time to hear what's being said and reflect and see how we are actually showing up, and then take those corrective measures to be a better person and improve our community. So yeah, feedback form, check it out. And again, if you enjoyed this, if you've enjoyed any of the live chats in the past, or if this is your first one and you enjoyed it, please, easy way to support, hit like, subscribe, leave a comment, share it with your friends. You can share clips of it on YouTube very easily. If you feel extra generous, there's a link in the description for Ko-fi. That's like buying a coffee. So by all means, you can buy me a coffee, or on Instagram, they do badges. But whatever you want to do, however you want to support, I appreciate it. And I appreciate your presence, and I appreciate your attention. Time, our attention is very limited, and there's so many things always vying for our attention. It's easy to get distracted in life. And what we fill our minds with are usually the things that we end up expressing and putting out into the world. So I appreciate this moment with all of you, and I feel like it's a privilege to get to share with all of you. So thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you in our next live chat. This is July. Next live chat will be August, I think, 2nd. We do it, yep, August 2nd. Every first Wednesday so far at 12 p.m. And I'll see you there. Other than that, don't forget to check out the Master Your Multiple Spins program. It is open, not fully publicly launched yet. That'll happen next week. There are limited spaces available. Spins.magnagopal.com, or just go to my website, magnagopal.com, and check out the on-demand section, online courses. You can find all of the information there. If you're on Instagram, you can go to the link in my bio, and you'll see all of the little details for the Spins program and everything else. And if you are over here, again, website or spins.magnagopal.com. I look forward to working with all of you, and I look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody. And of course, challenges here of logging off, right? Every single time this is the case. Okay. Ciao.